The Rich and Mike Show, Flagler County's hometown sports show. Here are your hosts, Rich Carroll and Mike Licio.
Yes, it's another episode of the Rich and Mike Sports Show. Good Saturday morning, Flagler County. And a good Saturday morning to you, Mike Licio.
Hello, Flagler County. Rich, we talked about it last week. We're getting ever closer. Fall football practice begins in just 10 days.
Oh,
9 days. 9 days. I'm so excited about it. I can't even keep track. 9 more days until fall practice.
Unbelievable. 9 days away from fall practice. And coming up on Tuesday, you're going to be about a month away from the first game of the season, the Potato Bowl. So it's unbelievable how fast things are moving. They say time flies when you're having fun. I think it just flies, period. It's just unbelievable how quickly the summer is passing on by. But you got a little taste of that where there was a media day. I heard about it on your sports report yesterday morning on WNZF, Mike Licio's sports report every Monday and Friday from 6 to 9 on Flagler's Morning News on WNZF. I heard your report. There was a media day. And I said, wait a second, is it still July? We're already having media days for high school football. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah, I was very excited about it. Thank you to Dan LaForest and Florida Citrus Sports, as well as Varsity Sports Nation, for allowing me to pluck that audio and let Flagler County hear a little more of that. That is on the Varsity Sports Nation Facebook page, or excuse me, YouTube channel, rather. If you want to go and listen, Matanzas portion begins 2 hours and 35 minutes in. But, you know, Coach Forrest talked about how last year doesn't matter. It's a new year. Every year stands on its own. He feels good about the experience he brings back. And we talked about this a little bit last week, how guys like LaDarian Baker and Cooper May and KJ Roberts, who were all at the media day, are coming back. Guys like Jordan Schendorf and Thomas Lerwan and Wiley Connor are coming back. And so they've got a lot of players coming back from last year. And the X factor is they have a new quarterback in Cole Walker. And so we heard from Cole Walker yesterday, and listening to him in that media day, Cole gets it. He knows what's going to be expected of him here. He knows there's a lot being put on his shoulders, but you know, Cole is a Flagler County kid, so he knows what it means. And I can't wait. I'm going to try and get in touch with Cole in the coming weeks. So I'd like to hear his perspective on the granddaddy of them all, the Potato Bowl, that is just, as we just said, about 32 days away.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's happening on August 22nd. The Potato Bowl at the Ship. The Matanzas Pirates hosting the FPC Bulldogs as we get the season started on August 22nd. That'll be a big deal. We'll have the broadcast on the radio, of course, on WNZF and on the Flagler Radio YouTube channel. We're all over the place. You can go and check out last year's Potato Bowl, as a matter of fact, if you want to. That's available right now on the Flagler Radio YouTube channel. Little Matanzas heavy early on, first couple weeks of the season. We've got the Potato Bowl, and then we've got University at the Ship, so we'll be at the Ship first 2 weeks of the season. Then we've got FPC at Mainland. So 3 very interesting games to get started in August, heading into September. So before you know it, there's going to be football games on the Flagler Radio YouTube channel, and we're pretty pumped up about it.
I came back from my summer sabbatical last week, and I was in the office at the day job this week. And I said to one of my coworkers, I can't decide if I'm feeling recharged and rejuvenated because I had a week off and relaxed, or because I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Football is almost here. NFL training camps start next week for the most part. Some teams are already in camp, but by this time next week, everybody will be in camp. College football will start camp not too long after that. High school will start after that. And it's the best time of year. We get to, have so much fun with football and doing the broadcast and hitting the road for some games this year. It's going to be a fun year. I don't know what to expect. I got an email from a student at Matanzas, and he asked me about, to make some predictions. And I'm not in the prediction business, but to ask me, weigh out some matchups and things like that. And honestly, it's a little too early because I like to wait until those rosters come out, right before the kickoff classic, because there's so much movement that happens during the summer. I actually remember last year, every year I write a preview of St. Johns County, and if there's a Flagler school playing a Clay County school, Flagler County as well, I write a preview for the high school teams for Clay Today Sports up in Clay County. And last year I wrote it about this time, the end of July, and talked about key players and newcomers and players who were leaving. And then every time by the time it was published, the week of football season, I'm looking at, okay, that kid transferred, that kid moved, that kid left this school, and now he's at that school. That kid's not doing this. This kid dropped football. And it was like, it was mind-boggling. So I really would like to wait. So, Jackson, I'm going to answer your question. I'll answer it here on this show, but probably a little later in the season when I have once we know kind of the lay of the land and we figure out who's actually left and who's not left. But it was a good question, and I'm excited for football in the area. We've got 3 teams in the county this year. First Baptist will begin putting together a football program in addition to the middle school program they have, coached by former FPC coach Dan Fish. We may hear from Coach Fish at some point, but this is the time of year, and there's a lot of football news starting to happen in the pros because teams are coming back. There's college media days, but there's also a pretty big high school football story happening here in Florida that kind of involves the NFL.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. You brought it to my attention there with Teddy Bridgewater. Of course, he was Florida State, Mike? Teddy Bridgewater played for Florida State, right?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh, no, he was with the Louisville Cardinals.
Louisville, yes, but Louisville. He played for the Dolphins.
He won the Heisman with Louisville, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's Miami Northwestern graduate, and he coached Miami Northwestern to the state championship last year, and then went back to the NFL to be Jared Goff's backup for the rest of the season in Detroit.
He was actually he was the quarterback at Louisville before Lamar Jackson, right? And you had back-to-back quarterbacks win Heisman Awards for Louisville, if I remember right. But Teddy Bridgewater, great quarterback at the college level, a serviceable pro. Actually played for the Jets, right, for a few years there. Didn't get a lot of burn there, but I guess the story, he had injury problems as well, couldn't stay on the field. But
he had that gruesome knee injury when he was first coming up with Minnesota.
That's right.
And, the fact that he has continued to have a career just speaks to, the resolve and the dedication he has to the game. And, what we're about to get into shows some more of that dedication.
Yes. Can you imagine, we talk about high school football here, and can you imagine if you're one of your coaches is a former NFL player, and not just a former NFL player, but a former Heisman Trophy winner in Teddy Bridgewater, and that led to some controversy, Mike.
So Teddy Bridgewater took over as the head coach of Miami Northwestern 2 years ago. He was an alum of the school, of course, and had a lot of success. In fact, last year they won the Class 6A championship in just his second year. So he's had a lot of success. Miami Northwestern has a storied history, and he was trying to bring the school back. They had hit some lean years, and if you've ever been down that district where Miami Northwestern plays, they have schools like Miami Central, Carroll City, Miami Norland, some legends of Florida high school football, and they had fallen off. The year before he got there, they were 4-6, and 4-6 for Miami Northwestern. That would be, to put it in perspective, from maybe like a local perspective or a college perspective, is, if the University of Florida, during the Muschamp years. So they went from a national championship contender to just losing games and not being the team they were. They went 4-6. And so he took over the team, and first year he got them to 12-2. And excuse me, yeah, that's 2-11. Sorry, last year was the first year. 12-2. They won the Class 6A championship, 41-0 over a Jacksonville Reigns team that was considered one of the best Duval County teams in the last decade, and they won convincingly. In fact, in the playoffs, listen to this. These are the scores of their 5 playoff games. They beat Barron Collier 69-0. They beat Lely 64-12. They beat Cypress Lake 48-0. They beat O'Galley, another team that's really good. We've seen them run up against FPC through the years, 40-0, and then Reigns 41-0. So they ran through the playoffs. It's one of the greatest playoff runs actually in the history of the state of Florida. They outscored their opponents 215-12. So a lot of positivity coming from Teddy Bridgewater as they go into season 2. And then that's where the controversy begins. So I'm going to kind of skim through here and kind of explain the Facebook post. Teddy Bridgewater on July 7th posted about getting more support. He says, I'm coming to you on behalf of the football team, seeking donations to assist our boys this season and help me carry the load so I don't have to take from my personal funds. From daily Uber rides to ML and feeding the boys, I'm thinking that's lunch. But at $1,500 a week, I'm feeding the boys catered pasta this season, pride sets, training camp. He said last year it cost me $9,500 to purchase pride sets so the players can look like a team. So pride sets, shirts, and apparel and things like that. $300 a week to keep the field painted. $1,300 a week to have recovery trucks come service the players the day before games. So like therapy, I'm assuming there. $2,200 a week for a pregame meal. And each week he spends $700 on Uber fares. And I think that is the one. I think that is the one that kind of at least made my head turn a little bit. Obviously Teddy Bridgewater's had a lot of success and he has the means to help provide for his team. But the FHSAA is pretty strict on what coaches can and can't do. And I think what caused people alarm wasn't any of the other stuff. I don't think anybody's going to begrudge a coach for giving a kid a meal or things like that. But I think the Uber rides, and I think that's something that really caught people's attention. And the reason why is we had a great point made by Michael Shoddy. He's a coach at Matanzas, and he made a post explaining that, last year Miami Northwestern had 21 transfers from all over South Florida. This year they had 22 more transfer in. And so is the fact that he's giving kids Uber rides an enticement for kids to transfer to Miami Northwestern because now they can play for this program and they don't have to worry about getting to school or being at the school. They can get there and back because the coach is going to cover it. And again, coach has the means to do it, but if Matt Forrest wanted to send a bus to pick up 7 FPC kids every day, hypothetically, everybody, hypothetically, I don't think that we here in Flagler County would look at that as, oh, Forrest is such a great guy, because that's essentially what's happening here is that they're basically cherry picking kids from all over and bringing them in. And I think that's where the FHSAA is going to have some concern with that. The Miami Northwestern has suspended Teddy Bridgewater. He says he cannot be suspended because he's a volunteer, so therefore he's not an employee of a school. His quote was, "It's impossible to suspend somebody who doesn't work for you. So if I'm suspended from Miami Northwestern, I'm free to go to another school of my choice, but in all caps, I'm not going anywhere." The athletic director also issued a statement saying that, there it is. Sorry, I scrolled back. This is so bad trying to read all this stuff. But he said that a coach cannot provide free or reduced cost transportation to a student, nor can they purchase anything for a student. And that is cited, he said that to the Miami Herald, Andre Williams, Northwestern's athletic director, citing the FHSAA. So, Rich, there's two sides to this. Everything's not always cut and dry. And I think there's some things that I think are being blown out of proportion, and there's some things that I think are legitimate. What say you?
I think it's amazing just looking at this from a local perspective. We've seen a lot of player movement over the last couple of years, not just with Flagler County schools, but schools in the surrounding areas. And it's always shocking to me to see that because I guess I just grew up in a different era. You were born in an area, so you went to a certain school. I couldn't go to a school miles away from me. It just wasn't in the cards because I wanted to play on a particular team. I guess that's the way it is now. We got school choice in Florida. I don't know. That stuff is odd. Teddy Bridgewater saying, well, you can't suspend me. I'm a volunteer. Do we have to maybe prevent former NFL players from being coaches of these teams? Because, when you have that kind of money and you see the kids struggling, you're going to do what you can to help them. And if they do live far away and you want them to play on your team and they can't afford to make those trips themselves, and you have some, and I guess that's what adds the unfair advantage because some of the other teams, hey, we don't have a guy here in this program that could pay for all these things, for the pride stuff, for an
Uber ride from Fort Lauderdale every day.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is an unfair advantage for that school. Some might say it might be an unfair advantage for kids from Fort Lauderdale to be on your team. I don't know how fair all of that is, but I guess FHSAA and the schools have decided that is perfectly fine. If you live in Flagler County, you can go to school and be on a team in Daytona Beach. If you're in St. Augustine, if you wanted to, you could go to somewhere else to be on their team. So you get that atmosphere, to me, creates the possibility of something like this happening. So what's the problem? Is Teddy Bridgewater the problem, or is the system itself the problem?
And the system itself, I want to point out, and everybody knows that I am no friend of the FHSAA, but I do want to point out, in this situation, as far as the transfer, the free movement, the FHSAA is relatively powerless because Florida statute allows a kid to go to a school in another district, in another county, if they want to. So really, the FHSAA can't override that in athletics. So they're kind of powerless in all this. What's interesting about Teddy Bridgewater, compared to some other former NFL coaches that are coaching at places, is that he's doing it in a public school. I think a lot of the coaches go to private schools and they can funnel the resources through the school. So it's the school providing this, it's a booster. It's, it can be done. How do I put this gently? It can be done out of sight. I'm not going to pick on any particular school. I know that I've had discussions with coaches in South Florida, a coach in South Florida about that, in fact, one night, about talking to him about how, and I'll just say his son is a top-notch NFL corner now, and I'll leave it at that. But about his team winning the state championship against a school from Northwest Florida that's the only school in the county. The county has 29,000 people. They are playing in a city in Broward County. The city in Broward County has 100,000 people. And if we take the area that the North Florida school serves and put that area around the school in South Florida, that school in South Florida has about 1.5 million to 2 million people in the same area that this other county school has 29,000 people. So is that an unfair advantage? Maybe. I had a coach say, well, I don't get my kids from outside, which was not true, still isn't true. And the other thing is that, Broward County, you just have access to this, but you do it through the school. I see it happen in private schools all over the state, all over the country. That's why you get guys like Trent Dilfer. He went to a private school to coach. Jeff Saturday went to a private school to coach. Patrick Surtain went to a private school to coach. And so there's an infrastructure set there to keep the coach away from everything. When you have a public school and you have limited resources and you have a district that's probably not really funding the school as well as it could, Teddy Bridgewater took it upon himself. Do I think that he was purposely, using Uber rides and using all this stuff to buy talent to bring into the school? I don't. I honestly don't. Maybe I'm a little naive in that.
Well, it's something to think about, though, Mike, because, hey, if you're the kid, do you consider going to a school so far away unless you know there's going to be a way for you to get there?
You find a way. And I think because I see it all the time. I see kids all over the schools going, I can talk about another player who's gone to schools as far as South Volusia County and as far north as North St. Johns County. Those two areas are not near each other, but they found a way. And I think a lot of kids transfer, but I think it's natural. I think if,
But maybe it makes the decision easier if you find out that,
does,
hey, one of the coaches is an NFL player and he's going to be able to pay for my Uber rides.
Well, even if he's not going to pay for your Uber rides, if you're a quarterback, do I want to go
That's true.
to Coach X or do I want to go to Teddy Bridgewater, who's an NFL quarterback who's done it? If I'm a receiver, I know this quarterback is going to understand concepts that are going to make me get the ball. He's going to have connections through colleges that are going to help me get looked at by colleges. He's going to bring attention to the program just by being there. I want to be a part of that. I want to play for an NFL coach. I want to play for a coach who I think has the ability to get me seen by college coaches, to get me seen, nationally, to get me my recruiting rankings up, because I can go and play for Teddy Bridgewater, because playing for Coach X at this school over here in this small town outside of Palm Beach is not going to do for me what, Coach Bridgewater is going to do for me. So yes, I'm not naive to the fact that yes, there is a point to it. I'm just saying that from another perspective, just the fact that he's an NFL coach is going to draw people in. We see it all the time where kids go to religious schools that have no religious affiliation with them. They're not going there for the education and the religion that they don't practice. They're going there because there's a coach there, there's an infrastructure there, there's things there that give that school an advantage over the others, whether it's something like an Uber ride or it's just I get to go to this world-class locker room because this is a private school that has all these resources and these donors and boosters. So there's so many things that come into it. Yes, that the fact that about a third of their players have come from transfers in the last 2 years, it's not a good look. But I think you could look around at a lot of schools around the state and say the same thing. And like you said, we see it all the time. I can think of kids that have been to 4 different schools. I know a kid that in 4 years he went to 4 different schools. And
I saw FPC players win a state championship with Mainland. I mean, let's be honest.
Well,
I mean,
I'm not going there again. The last time I went there,
it happens.
Some people still haven't forgiven me for that. And
it's just reality. It happens.
We watched RJ Hill and DJ Murray go and have a lot of success. But why? Because Travis Rowland's a coach with a proven record of success. They have
who also was a coach at FPC.
He was also a coach at FPC. They had a relationship.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at it and you're at a school, now I'm not saying this about FPC, but there are schools in Volusia County that have never been really good and they've struggled. And what happens when they get a good player? They say, well, I don't want to go to school X and go 3-7 every year. Let me go to Mainland. I'll play with world-class athletes. I'll have a great coaching staff to play for. I'll have a chance to win. I'll have colleges on campus all the time looking at players. And, if they see my teammates, they'll get to see me too. And maybe I can show them what I'm really capable of. So, and again, I'm not naive to say that, that everything, every time a kid transfers, it's a righteous reason or that, but I'm just saying that you could, you get people shouting, well, they're enticed, they're recruited, they're ever. Maybe, but maybe also the program has a track record of success. Maybe that's it. They want to be part of that success. They've seen what that program can do for other kids. They want that too. I go to school X and I don't see I'm not going to name any schools, but there's schools in Volusia County that probably have never had a Division I recruit. If I'm not capable of an athlete, do I want to stay at the school and take a chance that I might be the first if somebody ever comes to come down to my campus? Or do I go and see what I can do with the big school?
I just remember I grew up in the Bronx in New York. I can't imagine having lived in the Bronx and say I'm going to go to school in Queens. That's where I'm going. That's what I'm going to do. But anyway, I think you give Teddy Bridgewater credit for caring and, like you said, coaching at a public school. And he's just going to have to find other ways to contribute other than the big bank account, and I'm sure he will. So he's doing good things over there. I wanted to ask you about the All-Star game and a couple of other things. We have a few minutes left here. We'll get to that after this.
Thank you so much for recommending us to your family and friends. When you need a 30, 60, or 90-minute massage, it's real easy to book your appointment online. MassageByNatalie.org. MassageByNatalie.org.
The 2025 NFL season is just around the corner, and we can't wait for you to be back at the bank. Your Jacksonville Jaguars are starting off the preseason going head-to-head with the Pittsburgh Steelers Saturday, August 9th. Be at the bank as the Jags take the field for the first time this season and grab your tickets for a 7 p.m. kickoff by going to jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000. We'll see you soon, Jags fans.
Richard Mike Sports Show, a Saturday morning in Flagler County. Hey, Major League Baseball All-Star Game. We've talked about it in years past. I'm not a huge All-Star Game guy, regardless of the sport, but I did want to bring up the Home Run Derby, which is just pure garbage right now. I mean, that thing is awful. How can you watch that? It makes no sense. I forget that they put a time limit on it, so you got to hit as many home runs as you can hit in a certain amount of time, and you can't watch it. You can't even enjoy the home runs. One shot is halfway out the park, and they're throwing the next pitch. I don't know how anybody follows this. The old way was the best way. You get 10 outs. Let's see how many home runs you can hit with 10 outs. I don't know why they do this horrible format, and it's so unwatchable. That being said, with the game itself, I thought the swing off was pretty cool for an all-star game. I would never want to see that anywhere near a regular season game, or forbid a postseason game. You don't want to see anything like that. We already have the Ghost Runner in the regular season. We don't want to, and I doubt that would ever be the case. But I thought the swing off was pretty cool in the game. But the big issue I had with it was Schwarber winning the MVP for the 3 swings. That was a little odd when you had guys in real competition get some big hits. So overall, I thought the game was good. I think the idea of the swing off so that you actually get a winner, because we saw what happens when you don't, it leads to really dumb things like now it matters, deciding home field advantage through the All-Star game. But I thought the swing off was a success, but they need to fix that home run derby. Oh, and my other problem with the All-Star game, I thought the swing off was extremely cool, but then I look up at my clock, and it's happening at 11:45 on a Tuesday night. How can you expect kids to develop a love for baseball when the best moment in the sport, at the moment, a moment meant for kids to enjoy, is happening at 11:40 on a Tuesday night? It makes no sense. That's why baseball fails. That was a great moment, and nobody was watching it. At least the people who are impressionable, the kids. That type of moment can lead to fans for years and years to come. But unfortunately, 9, 10-year-olds, they're not watching that at 11:45 at night. That's where baseball fails. That was a great moment. I'm a baseball purist. I'm not big into these gimmicks. Although the Ghost Runner surprised me, I do like it. I know you don't. This was good for an all-star game. I thought this is good for kids. And it happened at 11:45 at night. It makes no sense to me. Fix the home run derby and fix the time of the game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I thought I didn't make it to the end of the swing off. I don't hate the idea. There was some thought that you maybe should have had Judge and Ohtani, and I don't even think they were still in the ballpark.
They were gone, yeah.
They were probably both on planes back home. But at the same time, if you even if they were there, they come out of the game in the 4th, 5th inning. Are you going to tell them, hey, stay ready for the next 3 hours in case we need you again to hit 3 swings? So no, but I thought the swing off was kind of cool. I don't want to draw too much attention because I don't want people to think it's a good idea, and then we end up with what we did with the Ghost Runner. Yeah. But the home run derby, what is this?
Oh, it's awful.
What is this, really? You know why players are opting out of the home run derby? Because it's so physically taxing, because it's not, all right, throw me a pitch, I'm ready to hit, swing. Because I would say the number of swings that a player takes, they probably take that many swings in the cage every day. I don't think it's unusual if you have 70 or 80 swings. I don't think that's unusual. What's unusual is having 70, 80 swings in a 9-minute span. And like you said, you can't track anything, you can't watch anything. It's awful. This is one of the first years I haven't watched a home run derby because I just can't do it. There's no fun to it. Now all of a sudden, one of the contributing factors, how fast can the pitcher get pitches to you? How consistent can he be? Because you only have 3.5 minutes. It's awful. And that's what I hate about it the most, is that now the biggest factor in the home run derby could be the guy throwing the ball. I'm not there to watch Cal Raleigh's dad decide if he's decided to be the difference in the home run derby. I want to see Cal Raleigh take swings, and obviously he did it. But that's what I want to see. I don't want to see Cal Raleigh's dad and Jazz Chisholm's hitting coach to be the difference between the home run derby and not. Not that was Jazz's problem, but just an example.
Yeah, look, the home run derby should be about one thing: home runs. It shouldn't be about the pitching coach. It shouldn't be about how many home runs you can hit. Just about home runs. Fix it, Major League Baseball. That's another episode of the Rich and Mike Sports Show. Have a great weekend, Flagler County.